Gabrielle's hands trembled as she gripped the mop handle, watching Richard Whitmore's perfectly polished shoes step closer. The laughter from his friends in the dining room echoed through the marble hallways of the penthouse she'd been cleaning for 3 months. She had learned to make herself invisible, to become part of the furniture in these wealthy homes. But today, invisibility wasn't enough. "Did you actually think," Richard sneered, his voice dripping with contempt, "that someone like you could ever belong in a place like this? Look at you. You're nothing but—" The front door opened. Every sound in the penthouse died instantly. The laughter stopped mid-note. Richard's face went pale. Even the air seemed to freeze. Gabrielle looked up and saw him for the first time. Cristiano Bianchi, the man who owned this building, the man whose reputation made grown men whisper, the man who wasn't supposed to arrive for another 3 hours. His dark eyes swept the room, taking in everything: Richard's proximity to her, her defensive posture, the mop still clutched in her white-knuckled grip. When his gaze finally landed on Richard, something dangerous flickered across his expression. "What?" Cristiano said quietly, his Italian accent making each word sound like a blade being unsheathed. "Did I just walk into?" If you want to discover how this moment changed everything for Gabrielle and what Cristiano did next, subscribe to the channel and leave a comment telling us where you're watching from. Every view helps bring more stories like this one to life. Gabrielle had been cleaning houses since she was 16. 12 years later, at 28, her hands knew every chemical, every surface, every stain. She knew how to remove red wine from white carpet, how to polish silver until it gleamed, how to make a bed so perfectly that it looked like no one had ever slept in it. What she didn't know was how to make rent and buy groceries on the same week. The apartment in Queens was small, one bedroom that she shared with her 7-year-old daughter, Amara. The wallpaper peeled in the corners. The radiator clanked through winter nights, but it was theirs, and Gabrielle would do anything to keep it that way. She worked 3 jobs: mornings at a diner in Manhattan, where businessmen left quarters as tips and complained about cold coffee; afternoons cleaning apartments for an agency that took 40% of her pay; evenings at a laundromat, folding other people's clothes until her shoulders ached. The penthouse job had come through the agency 3 months ago. "Mr. Bianchi's place," her supervisor had said, sliding the address across the desk. "Twice a week, he's rarely there. Just keep everything perfect and you'll be fine." Gabrielle had heard the name before. Everyone had. Cristiano Bianchi, real estate mogul, restaurant owner, and according to whispers in checkout lines and subway cars, something much darker. The kind of man whose business deals happened in the shadows, whose enemies disappeared, whose word was law in certain circles. But the pay was double her usual rate, and Amara needed new shoes. So Gabrielle cleaned. She polished the marble floors of the penthouse until they reflected like mirrors. She dusted the expensive artwork she didn't understand. She organized closets full of suits that cost more than she made in 6 months, and she stayed invisible. Until today. Richard Whitmore was Cristiano's tenant, a hedge fund manager who rented the floor below the penthouse. He'd come up that morning with 3 friends, all of them already drunk at 11 a.m., demanding access to Cristiano's private bar. "He won't mind," Richard had slurred, pushing past Gabrielle. "We're practically family." She'd tried to stop them. Politely at first, then more firmly. But Richard had just laughed, that cruel laugh that rich men reserved for people they considered beneath them. "What are you going to do?" he'd mocked. "Call the owner? Tell him that the help tried to give me orders?" His friends had joined in, their laughter building as Gabrielle stood frozen, the mop in her hands suddenly feeling like the only solid thing in a tilting world. She'd dealt with disrespect before. Whispered slurs in wealthy homes, assumptions about her intelligence, hands that lingered too long when passing payment. But this felt different. This felt dangerous. Richard had stepped closer, invading her space with the confidence of someone who'd never faced consequences. "You know what your problem is?" he'd said, his breath reeking of expensive whiskey. "You don't know your place. Someone needs to teach you." That's when the door had opened. Now, standing in the frozen silence of the penthouse, Gabrielle watched Cristiano Bianchi remove his sunglasses. He was younger than she'd expected. Mid-30s, perhaps. Devastatingly handsome in a way that made her breath catch despite everything. Dark hair perfectly styled, a tailored black suit that probably cost more than her car, a white shirt open at the collar, revealing the edge of a tattoo on his neck. But it was his eyes that held her. dark, intense, and currently fixed on Richard, with an expression that made the temperature in the room drop 10 degrees. "Mr. Bianchi," Richard stammered, suddenly sobering. "We were just— Get out." 2 words, spoken quietly, almost conversationally. But Richard and his friends scrambled for the door like their lives depended on it, which, Gabriel realized with a chill, they probably did. The door closed. Silence filled the penthouse like water. Gabrielle stood perfectly still gripping the mop, her heart hammering against her ribs. She was alone with Cristiano Bianchi, the man whose reputation made headlines, the man whose business associates spoke in hushed tones, the man who was currently walking toward her with slow, measured steps. "Are you hurt?" His voice was different now, softer, but no less intense. Gabrielle shook her head, not trusting her voice. Cristiano stopped a few feet away, studying her with an expression she couldn't read. "What's your name?" "Gabrielle." It came out as barely a whisper. She cleared her throat. "Gabrielle Monroe. I'm from the cleaning agency. I'm sorry about— You're apologizing." Something flashed in his eyes. "For what?" "Being harassed in my home. I should have handled it better. You should have felt safe." He cut her off, and the edge in his voice made her look up. "In my building. In my home. You should have felt safe." Their eyes met, and for a moment Gabrielle forgot how to breathe. There was something in his gaze. Intensity, yes, but also something else. Something that made her feel seen in a way she hadn't been in years. Cristiano's phone buzzed. He glanced at it, his jaw tightening. "I need to make a call. Stay here." He walked to the windows overlooking the city, speaking in rapid Italian. Gabrielle caught only fragments. Disrespect, taken care of, immediately. She should leave. Clock out, go home, forget this ever happened. But her feet wouldn't move. Something about this moment felt important, like standing at a crossroads where her life could split in entirely different directions. When Cristiano ended the call and turned back to her, his expression had shifted into something unreadable. "The agency didn't tell me your name," he said. "They never do. Just send different people each time." "I've been coming twice a week for 3 months, Gabrielle found herself saying. "Tuesdays and Thursdays. 3 months." He seemed to file this information away. "And today was the first time you met Richard Whitmore." It wasn't a question, but she nodded anyway. "It will also be the last." Cristiano's voice held absolute certainty. "He'll be out of my building by sunset." Gabrielle's eyes widened. I don't have to do anything." He stepped closer, and she caught the scent of expensive cologne and something else. Something uniquely him. "I choose to, there's a difference. But I'm just—" She stopped herself, but not fast enough. "Just what?" His eyes narrowed. "Just the help. Just someone who doesn't matter." He shook his head slowly. "That's what men like Richard count on. People accepting their place, staying invisible." He pulled out his phone again, typed something quickly. "I'm changing your contract. You'll work directly for me now, not through the agency. Triple your current rate and you'll have security." Gabrielle's mind spun. Triple her rate would change everything. Amara's shoes, the electric bill she'd been avoiding. Maybe even saving for something better, but why? The question escaped before she could stop it. Cristiano's expression softened almost imperceptibly. "Because you stood your ground. Because you didn't run. Because—" He paused, seeming to choose his words carefully. "Because fate has a strange sense of timing, and I arrived early today for the first time in 3 years." The new arrangement started the following Tuesday. Gabrielle arrived at the penthouse to find a security guard waiting by the elevator, a massive man named Marco, who nodded respectfully and escorted her up. The apartment was different too. Fresh flowers on the dining table, a new coffee maker in the kitchen that looked like it belonged in a spaceship, and on the counter, an envelope with her name written in bold, masculine handwriting. Inside was a key card, a phone number, and a note. "If you ever feel unsafe, call immediately." CB Gabrielle stared at the note for a long moment, her thumb tracing the initials. No employer had ever done anything like this. Most barely knew her name. She was dusting the living room when she heard the elevator. Her heart jumped. Cristiano wasn't supposed to be here. He never came on Tuesdays, that was the whole point of the schedule. But there he was, striding through the door in another perfectly tailored suit, this one charcoal gray. He stopped when he saw her, and for a moment they just stared at each other. "Mr. Bianchi," Gabrielle said, setting down her dust cloth. I wasn't expecting... Cristiano. He set his briefcase on the entry table. Please, Mr. Bianchi makes me feel like I'm 90. I don't think that's appropriate, and I don't think we need to stand on formality, not after last week. He walked to the kitchen, rolling up his sleeves as he went. The casual gesture revealed more tattoos on his forearms, intricate designs she couldn't quite make out from this distance. Have you eaten? The question caught her off guard. I had coffee. Coffee isn't food. He opened the massive refrigerator, studying its contents with the same intensity he'd used to study Richard Whitmore. When did you last have an actual meal? Gabrielle's cheeks heated. I'm fine. That's not what I asked. He pulled out ingredients, eggs, cheese, vegetables she couldn't name. Sit. I'm working, and I'm your employer telling you to take a break. He glanced over his shoulder, and there was something almost playful in his expression. Humor me. I don't often get to cook for people who won't critique every detail. Against her better judgment, Gabrielle sat at the kitchen island. She watched as Cristiano moved around the kitchen with surprising ease, cracking eggs one-handed, chopping vegetables with practiced precision. It was surreal, this man who commanded empires and inspired fear, making her an omelette in the middle of a Tuesday afternoon. You're surprised, he observed, not looking up from the pan. Honestly? Yes. Because men like me don't cook. Because men like you usually have people who cook for them. He smiled then, a real smile that transformed his entire face. My nonna would haunt me if I couldn't make a decent omelette. She raised me after my parents died, taught me that a man who can't feed himself is no man at all. Gabrielle felt something shift in her chest. This glimpse of humanity, of loss and family and grandmother's wisdom, made him real in a way the reputation never had. I'm sorry, she said quietly. About your parents. It was a long time ago. He plated the omelette with a garnish that looked restaurant quality and slid it in front of her. Eat, and tell me something true about yourself. She picked up the fork, her mind racing. Something true? Everyone lies in business. They tell me what they think I want to hear. You have no reason to do that. He leaned against the counter, studying her with those intense dark eyes. So tell me something true. Something real. Gabrielle took a bite of the omelette. It was delicious, perfectly seasoned. Nothing like the burnt scrambled eggs she made on her hot plate at home. I have a daughter, she heard herself say. Amara. She's 7. She waited for his expression to change, for the interest to fade. Men like him didn't want complications. They wanted simple, uncomplicated interactions with people like her. But Cristiano just nodded. What's she like? Smart. Too smart sometimes. She asks questions I don't always know how to answer. Gabrielle smiled despite herself. She wants to be a scientist, studies bugs and rocks and anything she can find. Last week she spent an hour explaining photosynthesis to me while I folded laundry. She sounds remarkable. She is. Gabrielle's voice softened. She's everything good in my life. Cristiano was quiet for a moment, his expression thoughtful. My nonna used to say that how a woman treats her children tells you everything you need to know about her character. She'd have liked you. Before Gabrielle could respond, his phone rang. He glanced at it, his expression hardening. I need to take this. But Gabrielle, he waited until she looked up. Thank you for trusting me with something true. He walked to his office, speaking in Italian again, and Gabrielle sat alone in the kitchen, finishing the best meal she'd had in months, wondering what the hell was happening to her carefully ordered life. The pattern continued over the next few weeks. Cristiano started showing up on Tuesdays and Thursdays, always with an excuse, paperwork to review, a call he needed to make from home, meetings that ended early. Each time, he found reasons to talk to her, to ask questions, to learn pieces of her life. She learned things about him, too, that he took his coffee black with no sugar, that he spoke 4 languages fluently, that he had a scar on his left hand from a childhood accident involving his nonna's stove, that when he smiled, really smiled, not the cold expression he wore for the world, he had a dimple on his right cheek. She learned that he was dangerous, yes, but not to her, never to her. It was the 5th week when everything changed. Gabrielle was leaving the building, already exhausted from the morning shift at the diner, when a black SUV pulled up to the curb. The window rolled down, revealing a face she didn't recognize, sharp features, cold eyes, a scar running along his jawline. Gabrielle Monroe? Every instinct screamed danger. She took a step back. Who's asking? Someone who wants to have a conversation. The back door opened. Get in. I don't think so. Two more men emerged from the vehicle. Large, threatening, moving to flank her. Gabrielle's hand dove into her purse, finding the phone Cristiano had given her. She pressed the emergency button, praying it actually worked, praying he'd... That won't help you. The scarred man stepped closer. By the time anyone arrives, tires squealed. Another SUV appeared, then another, until the street was flooded with black vehicles. Doors opened in perfect synchronization. Men in dark suits emerged, all of them moving with military precision. And then Cristiano was there, striding through them like Moses parting the Red Sea. His expression was terrifying, cold rage contained by the thinnest thread of control. Step away from her. Each word dropped like a stone into still water. The scarred man raised his hands, but his smile was cruel. Just wanted to talk, Bianchi. About respect, about boundaries. You want to talk about respect? Cristiano's voice dropped to something deadly quiet. While threatening an innocent woman? While putting your hands near what's mine? What's mine? The words echoed in Gabrielle's head as the scarred man's smile faded. She's just a housekeeper. She's under my protection. Cristiano moved between them with fluid grace. And you just declared war. The air crackled with tension. Gabrielle's heart hammered against her ribs. This was the man everyone whispered about. This was the danger she'd heard described in hushed tones. And he was using it to protect her. Get in the car, Gabrielle. Cristiano didn't turn around, keeping his eyes locked on the scarred man. Marco will take you home. We'll talk later. She wanted to argue, to say she could take care of herself, that she didn't need saving. But her legs were shaking, and the look in the scarred man's eyes had promised things she didn't want to imagine. Thank you, she whispered. Cristiano's shoulders tensed at her words, but he didn't respond. Marco appeared at her elbow, gently guiding her to a different SUV. As they pulled away, Gabrielle looked back through the rear window. Cristiano stood in the middle of the street, surrounded by his men, facing down the threat with absolute certainty. And for the first time in her life, Gabrielle understood what it felt like to have someone truly stand between her and the darkness. Marco drove her home, not to Manhattan for her afternoon cleaning jobs, but straight to Queens, to her apartment. Somehow Cristiano knew where she lived. How? She started to ask. He makes sure the people under his protection are actually protected, Marco said simply. Wait in the car. I need to check the apartment first. Gabrielle wanted to protest, but exhaustion and residual fear kept her silent. She watched Marco disappear into her building, then return 5 minutes later with a slight nod. It's clear, but we're posting someone outside. Non-negotiable. Her apartment felt different with a security guard in the hallway. Smaller. Like her real life was colliding with something much bigger, much more dangerous. Gabrielle made tea she didn't drink and tried to process what had happened. Someone had threatened her. Because of Cristiano. Because she'd been seen with him, spoken to him, accepted his protection. Her phone buzzed. The one Cristiano had given her. Not her regular phone with its cracked screen and missed payment notices. Are you safe, CB? She stared at the message for a long moment before typing back, Yes, thank you. The response came immediately. I'm coming over. We need to talk. You don't have to. I'm already on my way. 20 minutes later, there was a knock on her door. Marco's voice. It's clear. Gabrielle opened the door to find Cristiano standing in her narrow hallway, looking completely out of place. His expensive suit, his commanding presence, his dangerous reputation, all of it clashed with the peeling wallpaper and flickering fluorescent lights. But his expression was gentle, concerned. May I come in? She stepped aside, suddenly hyper-aware of her cramped apartment, the couch with its worn cushions, the small kitchen table covered in Amara's school papers, the single-bedroom door decorated with her daughter's crayon drawings. Cristiano didn't seem to notice any of it. His focus was entirely on her. Sit down, please. Gabrielle sat on the couch, and he took the chair across from her, leaning forward with his elbows on his knees. I need you to understand something. Those men today, they work for a rival family, someone who's been trying to undermine my territory for months. What does that have to do with me? They saw us together, saw me change your contract, fire Richard Whitmore, start coming to the penthouse when I never used to. His jaw tightened. They saw me show special attention to you, and they decided to use it against me. Gabrielle's stomach dropped. So this is my fault. No. The word came out sharp. Absolute. This is their fault. Their choice. Their move in a game you never asked to be part of. He ran a hand through his hair, disrupting its perfect style. But I need you to know what you've walked into. I need you to understand the danger. I could quit. Go back to the agency. Disappear. They already know who you are. Where you live. That you have a daughter. Cristiano's voice was gentle but firm. Disappearing won't make you safer. It will just make you easier to find. Terror clawed at Gabrielle's throat. Amara is being picked up from school by two of my most trusted men as we speak. They'll bring her here to you, and then we're going to move you both somewhere safe. We can't just leave. You can, and you will. Cristiano stood, moving to the window, checking the street below with practiced efficiency. I have a property in Westchester, gated, secure. You and Amara will stay there until this is handled. For how long? As long as it takes. He turned back to her, and his expression made her breath catch. I won't let anything happen to you, Gabrielle, or to your daughter. That's not a request or a negotiation. That's a promise. Before she could respond, there was another knock. Marco's voice again, followed by a child's excited chatter. The door opened, and Amara burst in, backpack bouncing, her natural hair in the two puffs Gabrielle had styled that morning. Mama, these nice men said we're going on an adventure. She stopped short, seeing Cristiano. Who are you? Gabrielle watched as Cristiano's entire demeanor shifted. The dangerous edge softened. His expression became open, almost gentle. He crouched down to Amara's level, a genuine smile on his face. My name is Cristiano. I'm a friend of your mama's. Amara studied him with the intense scrutiny only 7-year-olds possessed. You're fancy. He laughed, a real laugh that transformed his face. I suppose I am. Are you the reason we're going on an adventure? Yes. He glanced at Gabrielle, something vulnerable in his eyes. I want to make sure you and your mama are safe. Is that okay with you? Amara considered this seriously. Will there be a pool? 2 pools, actually, and a library. I heard you like to read. Her eyes went wide. How did you know that? Your mama told me. She says you're going to be a scientist. A marine biologist, Amara corrected. I want to study dolphins. Then you'll love the aquarium in the town nearby. We could visit if your mama says it's okay. Amara turned to Gabrielle with pleading eyes. Can we, Mama? Please. Gabrielle looked at her daughter's excited face, then at Cristiano, still crouched on her worn carpet, looking at Amara like she was the most important person in the world. Something in her chest cracked open. Okay, she whispered. Okay. The house in Westchester was nothing like Gabrielle had imagined. It wasn't a house. It was an estate. Rolling lawns, towering oak trees, a mansion that looked like it belonged in a movie. Security gates, guards, cameras everywhere. But inside it felt like a home. Amara's room had built-in bookshelves, a canopy bed, and a window seat overlooking the gardens. Gabrielle's room was next door, spacious, elegant, with an ensuite bathroom bigger than her entire queen's apartment. This is too much, she said to Cristiano as he showed them around. It's necessary, he corrected, and temporary. Once the threat is eliminated, how do you eliminate a threat like this? His expression darkened. You don't need to know those details. I think I do. Gabrielle crossed her arms. If I'm trusting you with my daughter's safety, I need to know what we're dealing with. Cristiano was quiet for a long moment, studying her face. You're not afraid of me. Should I be? Most people are. I'm not most people. Something heated flashed in his eyes. No, you're not. They stood in the hallway, the air between them charged with unspoken things. Gabrielle could hear Amara exploring her new room, exclaiming over every detail, could feel the weight of everything that had happened pressing down on her shoulders. Why are you doing this? She asked quietly. Really? I'm nobody. Just a housekeeper who happened to be in the wrong place. The right place. Cristiano stepped closer, close enough that she could see the flecks of gold in his dark eyes. You were in the right place, at the right time. And fate has a funny way of putting people exactly where they need to be. You don't strike me as someone who believes in fate. I didn't, until I walked into that penthouse 3 hours early and saw Richard Whitmore threatening the most extraordinary woman I've ever met. Gabrielle's breath caught. Cristiano, you don't have to say anything. I'm not asking for anything. He reached out, his fingers barely brushing her cheek in a touch so gentle it made her heart ache. I'm just telling you the truth. Something real like you gave me in that kitchen. You changed something in me, Gabrielle. The moment I saw you standing there, refusing to back down, refusing to be invisible, you changed everything." Before she could respond, Amara called out, "Mama, come see, there's a telescope." Cristiano smiled softly, stepping back. "Go. Enjoy this. Let me handle the rest." He turned to leave, but Gabrielle caught his hand. His skin was warm, and she felt his pulse jump at the contact. "Thank you," she said, "for everything, for seeing me when everyone else looks through me, for protecting us, for—" Her voice cracked. "For caring." Cristiano's thumb brushed across her knuckles. "Gabrielle, He seemed to struggle with words for the first time since she'd known him. "Be careful with my heart. I'm not used to having one anymore." Then he was gone, leaving her standing in the hallway, her hand still tingling from his touch, her world completely transformed. 3 days passed like a dream. Amara explored every inch of the estate, cataloguing insects and leaves with scientific precision. Gabrielle tried to relax, but anxiety hummed beneath her skin. She wasn't used to sitting still, to being taken care of, to having time to think. Cristiano came every evening, always with an excuse. Documents to review, calls to make. But he'd find his way to wherever they were. The library, the pool, the garden, and stay longer than any work required. He taught Amara to play chess, his patience infinite as she learned each piece. He discussed marine biology with the seriousness of a college professor. He made Gabrielle laugh with stories about his nonna's attempts to teach him proper Italian manners. "She'd hit my knuckles with a wooden spoon every time I reached for bread without asking," he said, demonstrating with Amara's giggles filling the air. "I learned to be very polite at the dinner table." "Did you ever get mad at her?" Amara asked. "Never. She was teaching me respect, teaching me that manners matter no matter how much power you have." He glanced at Gabrielle. Some of the most important lessons hurt a little. On the 4th night, after Amara fell asleep, Gabrielle found Cristiano in the study. He stood by the window, phone pressed to his ear, speaking in rapid Italian. When he saw her, he ended the call immediately. "Is she asleep?" "Out cold. She spent 3 hours in the pool today." Gabrielle stepped into the room, her bare feet silent on the expensive carpet. "You look tired. It's been a long day." "Cristiano," she moved closer, "tell me the truth. What's happening? Is Amara safe?" He turned to face her fully, and she saw the exhaustion etched in the lines around his eyes, the tension in his shoulders. "She's safe. I promise you that. But the situation is complicated." "Complicated how?" "The family that threatened you, they've made it personal. They're demanding things I won't give them. Territory, money, respect they haven't earned." His jaw tightened. "They think you're my weakness. They're not wrong." Gabrielle's heart stuttered. "What does that mean?" "It means I've been in this life for 15 years and I've never let anyone get close, never let anyone matter enough to be used against me." He crossed the room in 3 long strides, stopping close enough that she had to tilt her head back to meet his eyes. "Until you. I'm not—" "Yes, you are." His hand came up, cupping her face with a gentleness that contrasted sharply with the danger radiating from every inch of him. "You and Amara, you've become the most important things in my world. And that makes you targets, makes you vulnerable. Then maybe we should leave. Go somewhere far away where I can't protect you, where I'll spend every second wondering if you're safe." His thumb traced her cheekbone. "No, I won't lose you, Gabrielle, I can't. You barely know me. I know enough. I know you work 3 jobs to give your daughter a better life. I know you stand up to drunk billionaires twice your size. I know you see people, really see them, in a world where most people are invisible." His voice dropped to something raw, honest. "I know that when you smile at me, everything else disappears, and I know that's terrifying, but I can't make it stop." Gabrielle couldn't breathe, couldn't think. All she could do was stare into those dark eyes and see the truth reflected there. This powerful, dangerous man was just as vulnerable as she was. "Cristiano—" His phone rang, shattering the moment. He cursed in Italian, glancing at the screen. "I need to take this. It's about—" He stopped, his expression hardening. "It's about them." He answered, and Gabrielle watched his face transform. The gentleness vanished, replaced by cold calculation. He spoke in Italian, his voice sharp as a blade, and even without understanding the words, she knew he was threatening someone. When he ended the call, his hands were shaking. "What happened?" she asked. They found out where you used to live. They went to your apartment in Queens. He looked at her and something like fear flickered across his face. If you'd been there, but I wasn't, because you moved us here. This time, he turned away, his shoulders rigid, but they're escalating, making it clear that they won't stop until, he cut himself off. Until what? Until I give them what they want, or until someone dies. The words hung in the air like a death sentence. Gabrielle felt cold despite the warmth of the study. What do they want? For me to disappear, to leave the city, abandon my territory, give up everything I've built? He turned back to her, and his expression was raw. Or to give you up? Then do it. The words came out before she could stop them. Give them what they want, I'll leave, take Amara and disappear, you'll be safe and we'll... No. The single word was absolute. Final. No, Gabrielle. I won't let you go. I won't let you run. And I sure as hell won't let them win. But if someone dies, it won't be you. He closed the distance between them again, his hands framing her face. I swear on my life, on everything I have, it won't be you or Amara. You can't promise that. Watch me. And then his lips were on hers, and Gabrielle stopped thinking. The kiss was everything, desperate and gentle, claiming and asking, promising and demanding. His hands tangled in her hair, and she gripped his shirt, pulling him closer, needing him like air. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Cristiano pressed his forehead to hers. I need to tell you something, he whispered. Something true. Okay. I'm not a good man, Gabrielle. I've done things, terrible things, to get where I am. I've hurt people, destroyed lives, built an empire on blood and fear. His voice cracked. But when I'm with you, when I see Amara laugh, when I watch you be strong and brave and impossibly good, I want to be better. You make me want to be someone worthy of you. Tears burned Gabrielle's eyes. You're already worthy. No, not yet. But I will be. He kissed her forehead, her cheeks, her lips again. I promise you, I will be. The moment shattered as the study doors burst open. Marco stood there, his expression grim. Boss, we have a problem. Cristiano stepped away from Gabrielle, his entire demeanor shifting into something lethal. What kind of problem? They took Anna. The color drained from Cristiano's face. What? Your cousin. They grabbed her an hour ago. They're demanding... Marco's eyes flickered to Gabrielle. They're demanding a trade. Ice filled Gabrielle's veins. She didn't need Marco to say it. She knew. They wanted her in exchange for Anna. Absolutely not, Cristiano said, his voice deadly quiet. We find another way. Boss, she's family. So is Gabrielle. The words echoed through the study. So is Amara. You think I'm going to trade one person I love for another? You think I'm going to let anyone dictate terms to me? Marco looked between them, understanding dawning. What do you want to do? Cristiano's expression turned into something Gabrielle had never seen before. Cold calculation mixed with volcanic rage. We end this. Tonight. I want every available soldier, every weapon, every resource we have. He pulled out his phone, already making calls. They want to threaten my family. They're about to learn what that costs. Cristiano, Gabrielle said quietly, if someone can just talk to them, talking is done. He looked at her, and for the first time, she saw the true depth of what he was capable of. They crossed a line. They took someone I love, and now they're going to pay for it in ways they can't imagine. He walked to the door, but stopped, turning back. Marco stays with you and Amara. No matter what you hear, no matter what happens, you stay here, you understand? Gabrielle nodded, her throat too tight for words. Cristiano crossed back to her in 2 quick strides, kissed her hard and fast, and whispered against her lips, This ends tonight. And then I'm coming back to you, that's a promise. Then he was gone, and Gabrielle was left standing in the study, tasting his kiss, feeling her world balanced on a knife's edge between safety and disaster. The waiting was unbearable. Gabrielle paced the master bedroom, checking on Amara every 10 minutes. Her daughter slept peacefully, unaware of the storm raging in the night. Marco stood outside the door, silent and vigilant, his presence both comforting and terrifying. Hours crawled by. Midnight came and went. 1 a.m. 2. Gabrielle's phone sat silent on the nightstand, mocking her with its lack of news. She'd Googled Cristiano's name 3 times, looking for breaking news, police reports. Anything. Nothing. At 3:47 a.m. she heard vehicles. multiple engines, tires on gravel. Her heart leaped into her throat. She ran to the window, saw the convoy of black SUVs pulling up the drive. Cristiano emerged from the lead vehicle, his suit jacket gone, his white shirt torn and stained. But he was walking, moving, alive. Gabrielle flew down the stairs, not caring that she was in pajamas, not caring about anything except reaching him. She burst through the front door just as he hit the steps. They collided in the middle, his arms wrapping around her, lifting her off her feet. She buried her face in his neck, breathing him in, feeling his heart hammer against her chest. "Are you hurt?" She pulled back, searching his face for injuries. "Are you—" "I'm fine. I'm okay." His hands cupped her face, his thumbs wiping away tears she hadn't realized were falling. "It's over, Gabrielle. It's done. Anna? Safe, already at her mother's house." His smile was tired but genuine. "Everyone's safe. And the other family?" His expression hardened slightly. "They won't be a problem anymore. They've been convinced to leave the city, permanently." Gabrielle didn't ask for details, didn't want to know. All that mattered was that he was here, whole, safe. "I was so scared," she whispered. "I thought, I know. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." He kissed her forehead, her temples, her cheeks. "But I made you a promise. I promised I'd come back. I always keep my promises." They stood there on the front steps, wrapped in each other as dawn began to break over the estate. Marco and the other men tactfully disappeared into the house, giving them privacy. "Gabrielle," Cristiano said softly, "I need to ask you something, and I need you to be completely honest." Her heart skipped. "Okay. Can you live with this? With who I am? What I do?" He pulled back enough to meet her eyes. "I can't change my past. Can't erase the things I've done. But I can promise that you and Amara will always be protected, always be cherished, that I will spend every day trying to be the man you deserve." Gabrielle looked at him. This complicated, dangerous, gentle, fierce man who'd walked into her life by accident and changed everything. She thought about Amara sleeping safely upstairs, about the fear she'd lived with for years, working herself to exhaustion, always one paycheck from disaster. About standing in that penthouse, invisible and helpless, until he'd walked through the door. "I can live with it," she said, "as long as you promise me one thing. Anything. No more secrets. If something threatens us, I want to know. We face it together. Not you protecting me from the truth, but us figuring it out as a team." Cristiano's smile was brilliant, transforming his entire face. "Together. I like the sound of that." He kissed her then, slow and deep and full of promises. When they finally broke apart, the sun was fully up, painting the sky in shades of gold and pink. "Come on," he said, taking her hand. "Let's go wake up Amara. I promised her we'd visit the aquarium today, and I always keep my promises. She'll be thrilled." Gabrielle let him lead her inside, feeling lighter than she had in years. Fair warning, though. Once she starts talking about dolphins, she doesn't stop. "Good. I have a lot to learn about marine biology." He squeezed her hand. "And I have the best teachers." They climbed the stairs together, and Gabrielle felt the pieces of her life clicking into place in a way they never had before. This wasn't the life she'd imagined. It was more complicated, more dangerous, more intense. But it was also more beautiful than anything she'd ever dreamed. 2 years later, Gabrielle stood in the garden of the Westchester estate, their home now, not just a safe house, watching Amara demonstrate her newest science experiment to Cristiano. They were launching homemade rockets, her daughter explaining trajectory and velocity, with the confidence of someone who'd never been told she couldn't reach for the stars. Cristiano listened with complete attention, asking questions, celebrating each successful launch with genuine enthusiasm. He'd kept every promise. The threats had ended. The danger had faded. He'd restructured his business, moving away from the darker elements, focusing on legitimate enterprises. It hadn't been easy. There were still late-night phone calls, still moments of tension, but they faced everything together just as they'd promised. Gabrielle's hand moved to her stomach, where a small life was just beginning to grow. She hadn't told him yet, wanted to find the perfect moment. As if sensing her gaze, Cristiano looked up. Their eyes met across the lawn, and that familiar electricity sparked between them. He said something to Amara, who waved him away, already absorbed in her next experiment. He crossed to Gabrielle, his arms wrapping around her from behind, his chin resting on her shoulder. What are you thinking about? How different everything is. How 2 years ago I was invisible, struggling, scared. She turned in his arms. And now, I'm here, with you. Amara's thriving. We're safe. We're more than safe. He kissed her softly. We're happy. At least I hope you are. I am. More than I ever thought possible. She took a deep breath. And in about 7 months we're going to be even happier. It took him a moment. Then his eyes went wide, dropping to her stomach. Are you pregnant? Yes. The joy that transformed his face was something she'd never forget. He picked her up, spinning her carefully, laughing like a child. We're having a baby? We're having a baby. Cristiano set her down gently, his hands immediately going to her still flat stomach. A baby. Our baby. He looked up at her and there were tears in his eyes. I didn't think I deserved. You deserve this. Deserve us. Deserve all the happiness in the world. Gabrielle kissed him. And this baby is going to be so loved. Mama, Cristiano, Amara called from across the lawn. Come see, this one went so high. They walked together toward her, Cristiano's arm around Gabrielle's shoulders, their future spreading out before them like the endless sky above. She thought about that day in the penthouse, about the moment everything had changed. Fate had strange timing, but it had perfect aim. This story has reached its end. If it touched your heart in some way, leave your like and share it with someone who also loves emotional stories. New stories are coming soon. Until next time.